Hey guys, welcome back to Now Showing with John
and Cam.
And on today's episode, we are going to do another one of our retro trailer reactions. And when coming up with which one to do this week, or this episode, we were talking about some of the lists that we already did. And one person that has kind of like tickled the top 5 on a couple of our lists that just hasn't made it is Pinhead in front of us. So to give Pinhead a little bit of love, because he does deserve it. He is an amazing horror icon, horror character. I mean, the Cenobites, the Cube, his torture, the chains. You know what it's about. You know how twisted Pinhead is.
Sounds like our average weekend.
Yeah, really, it does. But so we're gonna do the original Hellraiser movie trailer. I don't think I've ever actually seen it because like I was 1 when this movie came out. I don't even think, depending on when it came out, you might not have even been around.
Yeah, I don't. I'm sure at some point as a kid I've watched the trailer to Hellraiser because back then
maybe,
and even like,
on the VHSs they
that's
did
what
have
I mean
them,
on
so,
a VHS trailer, but I don't remember the trailer.
I really
at
don't
all.
remember it either. So without anything else, we're gonna get right into it and we'll give you our thoughts and see if it holds up. And so
let's do this. I like that guy's voice. He was in so many trailers back then.
Good old Clive Barker. Huh. It's interesting Stephen King kind of praised him back then.
See, this is actually based on a novella that Clive Barker wrote called The Hellbound Heart. That was what this movie was supposed to be called. Good old practical effects.
Yeah, the practical effects in this in general were amazing.
Oh, that scene.
Unlike anything you have witnessed, is born. Because within
the movies back then were better, man. They just
I mean,
this
is horror perfection. Like back in the day, like this era. You don't get this anymore.
No, you don't get it anymore.
Yes.
Hellraiser, a film by Clive Barker. We'll tear your soul out.
Love that line.
Yeah.
Pinhead's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's... Pinhead has always been one of my favorites, and after watching that, I forgot how much I really do.
It's been a while since I've watched.
I can't remember
the
guy's
too.
What's the
Doug Bradley?
Yeah,
plays
Doug Bradley.
Pinhead,
He does such a good job.
He does.
The character design. It's like I don't know. This might actually, right now, I'm gonna go out and say that this might have got into number 5. I'm gonna have to relook at that list
of the top
horror villains because like when this came out, you had Freddy, Jason. You had Michael Myers, Leatherface. You had all those. This was such an original take, and it's still...
I think the reason why he didn't make mine and why I don't talk about Pinhead as much is because there are a lot of movies in the series, but really only the first 2 are the only ones that I've ever liked. And beyond that point, I mean, it's not that the other movies are terrible, and I think they're the most recent I have never really watched all the way through, but... Yeah, I mean, Pinhead is so original. It's awesome. Of course, as I was telling to John when that trailer was playing, this was based on a novella that Clive Barker wrote called The Hellbound Heart. And when he started developing this for the big screen, that's what he had it. That's what was in the script as the name. And the studio said, no, we don't like it because this sounds too much like a romantic title. So
there's some romance in it.
Yeah. So they said you need to change it. Change the title. So he came back with a brand new title, and that brand new title was Sadomasochist from Beyond the Grave. That was the second title for this movie. And then the studio was like, absolutely not. That's not going to be the title. There's like a lot of sexual undertones and overtones in this title, and we don't want people to get the wrong idea about this movie. So they made him change it again. And I think there's a funny joke within that Clive Barker once told that he got so frustrated with the name at one point on the set, he just yelled out to the entire crew, what should we name this movie? And no one said a word except it was reported that there was a 60-year-old woman on craft service that yelled out, call it What a Woman Would Do for a Good Lay. Because there's a lot of, and if you've seen the movie, you know, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in this movie. But of course he did eventually change it to Hellraiser, which I think became the perfect title. And for those of you who've never saw Hellraiser, basically to put it in short words, the film, for better or less, is about a woman who is confronted by her husband who died. He comes back as sort of a functioning zombie. He escaped hell mysteriously, and unfortunately for this unfaithful wife who was cheating on her husband, she's got a lot of trouble in store because Pinhead, who is the leader of this group called the Cenobites, who are in charge of basically torturing people in hell, they come out of hell in search of her husband who escaped their torture. And of course, other people get caught up in the mix. And the effects in this movie, I mean, the trailer got to show some, but it doesn't even do justice for everything. And I kind of thought that trailer would be a little short because I didn't know how much they'd even be able to show.
There isn't a whole lot that they could really show.
It's a gory, bloody, torturous movie. And there's a lot of sequels that spawned of it, of course. One of the biggest criticisms I know that the original Hellraiser got, for those of you who've seen it or maybe haven't, or it's been a long time, the very last act of the movie has always been heavily criticized for having the effects looking poorer than the rest of the movie. And Clive Barker went on record to state that they basically ran out of budget. And so the last effects that you see in the last act were all done by Clive Barker himself and one other gentleman. I can't remember the gentleman's name. And Clive Barker has said on quote plenty of times that they did the best they could with what they had, and he's surprised it even turned out as good as it did because of all of the alcohol consumption that happened over those few days. He said they were so drunk during the time of making the practical effects and things like that. But I mean, it's never really bothered me. I think in general the movie's always you know, it's looked good. Doug Bradley, who played Pinhead, like we said, he did phenomenal every time he's played Pinhead. Reportedly,
the voice, just the facial expressions, everything, just.
And he's gone on record, Doug Bradley, to say it took over 6 hours to apply the Pinhead makeup. So every single time he had to get into it, he would sit in a chair for over 6 hours to put that on. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great moments in this movie.
And even, like, the secondary characters of, like, the other Cenobites are just as amazing. Like, they did a really good job of creating them.
Yeah.
And the one thing about that trailer, every time I do these retro trailer reactions, I miss the old school, like, trailer announcer.
Yep.
Like, that voice is just incredible. Like, they need to bring that back. Like, it just gets you, like, as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh, what, like,
hell is coming. Yeah, it's just it's so good, and
like they said, like Stephen King, like whenever this movie was coming out and Stephen King met Clive Barker, like Stephen King knew that Clive Barker was going to become like an icon of like the horror world.
Another funny story about Clive Barker that I once read is that when the movie first premiered, Clive Barker was watching it with his mother, and as soon as it began and his name popped up at the start of the credits, she started to cry and said, "This is the happiest I've ever been." And he said, "Well, I hope you enjoy being happy right now because you're going to become miserable for the next 2 hours because of what she was about to watch." Because obviously, I'm assuming she's not in to the type of stuff.
With that being said, all of our fans, if you've never seen this movie, get with your parents, get some popcorn, turn the lights off, and just enjoy this amazing family horror movie.
Get ready for the holidays with Hellraiser. Absolutely. Yeah, it's got a great supporting cast. The acting in the movie's done well. Another quick fact, esteemed horror actor and just actor in general, Lance Henriksen, was originally in talks to play Frank, the husband that comes back from the dead in this movie. And he turned the role down because he said that he felt just from reading the script that this was going to become a big cult horror hit, and he didn't want to be stuck making any sequels. Well, go figure, Lance Henriksen would end up starring in one of the sequels, Hellraiser Hellbound, in 2005. So that's another quick fact for you there. But yeah, I mean, the trailer was fun. I love doing these.
It kind of just fell off. Like the series, like they were good for just like the gore and stuff, but it was kind of like how Final Destination went. Like, you just literally like, oh, there's another one. Let me just watch it to see how
the second
how
movie's
crazy.
great.
But yeah, the first
when
two,
she goes down into hell in the second one.
But I'm saying
awesome.
after the first two, it just kind of like
they were just
you
making
watched
them
it just to see how gory and like what like if they could really find like another way to like step up the torture and stuff. But
yeah, I remember too. Funny joke. Louis C.K. the comedian did one of his stand-up specials, and he referenced Hellraiser. He said he believed that in order for someone to be able to send a drunk text, they should have to solve the Hellraiser puzzle first before they can send a drunk text. So I always thought that was funny too. But yeah, I mean, great trailer, great movie. If you've never checked out Hellraiser, it's a fun one to watch.
I mean, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like can think of like old school like retro horror movies, and honestly like it really doesn't even have to be horror movies, it can be newer. If you want us to do like, I was thinking we should do Happy Gilmore because I love that movie. Like try to do some other different things, branch out a little bit. Please leave us a comment, let us know what you guys would like to see, and we'll be more than happy to try to oblige you guys. And without anything further, I mean, thank you. If you are continuing to watch, or if you're new, hang in. We have a lot of ideas and new stuff coming out, but you have been watching Now Showing with John
and King.